An elderly 12-year-old golden retriever named Buddy lay on the vet's table, his body too weak to move. The lethal injection was prepared, and the moment to say goodbye had arrived. But just as the needle approached, Buddy let out a deep, mournful howl, a sound so full of longing that it sent chills through the room. He wasn't crying out in pain, he was begging for one last thing, to see his owner. The problem? His owner Michael was miles away, battling terminal cancer in hospice care. No one thought they could reunite them in time. But what happened next left everyone in shock. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the unforgettable ending. This story will change the way you see love and loyalty forever. The clinic was quiet, the air thick with sorrow. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a sterile glow, doing nothing to ease the heaviness in the room. Buddy, once a vibrant and energetic golden retriever, now lay motionless on the cold steel table. His golden fur, once shiny and full, had dulled with age, and his breathing was slow and labored. Every rise and fall of his chest seemed like a struggle. Dr. Reynolds, the vet, placed a gentle hand on Buddy's head. He had performed this procedure countless times, but it never got easier, especially not today. Buddy wasn't just any dog. He had been a therapy dog, bringing comfort to hospital patients, nursing home residents, and children with special needs for over a decade. His gentle eyes and unwavering patience had touched countless lives. But time had taken its toll. Arthritis made every movement painful. His kidneys were failing, his body was shutting down. The kindest choice was to let him go peacefully. Yet, as Dr. Reynolds reached for the syringe, something stopped him. Buddy stirred. With what little strength he had left, the old dog lifted his head. His ears twitched. His cloudy eyes, though tired, burned with sudden awareness. Then, from deep in his chest, he let out a sound that shattered the silence. A howl so raw, so full of emotion, that the vet assistants froze. It wasn't a sound of pain. It was a plea, a call, a desperate, heart-wrenching cry for the one person he loved most. Michael. One of the vet techs, Sarah, gasped. He's calling for him. Dr. Reynolds hesitated. He knew Michael was in hospice, too weak to even sit up. Bringing him here was impossible. But Buddy's howl had been more than just noise. It was as if the dog knew his owner was slipping away too, and he refused to go without seeing him one last time. Just then, the clinic door burst open. A hospice nurse stood there, breathless. "You need to wait," she said urgently. "Michael, he's coming." Dr. Reynolds frowned. "That's not possible. His condition?" "He's refusing to stay in bed," the nurse interrupted. "He's demanding to see Buddy. They're bringing him now." The room fell into stunned silence. Buddy, who had been fading just moments before, suddenly seemed more alert. His tail gave the faintest wag. His breathing steadied. He was holding on. Meanwhile, at the hospice center, chaos unfolded. Nurses rushed around Michael's room as he fought to sit up, his frail body trembling with effort. His skin was pale, his breath shallow, but his eyes burned with determination. "I have to see him," Michael rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. "I promised him." His doctor tried to reason with him. "Michael, you're too weak. The trip could—" "I don't care." Michael's voice was firm, despite its weakness. "I won't let him go alone." A nurse stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "Then let us help you." Within minutes, an ambulance was called. Michael was carefully lifted into a wheelchair, his body frail, but his spirit unbroken. Every bump in the road sent waves of pain through him, but he gritted his teeth and held on. He had to make it. Back at the clinic, Buddy's strength was fading again. His breaths grew shallower, his heartbeat slowed. The vet staff watched the monitors with growing dread. "He might not have much longer," Sarah whispered. Dr. Reynolds clenched his jaw. Should they wait? Or would it be kinder to let Buddy go now, sparing him further suffering? Then, tires screeched outside. The doors flew open. Paramedics rushed in, wheeling Michael inside. The moment Buddy caught his scent, his entire body reacted. His tail thumped weakly against the table. His ears perked up as much as they could. His cloudy eyes locked onto Michael with a love so deep it left no room for doubt. He had waited for this. Michael, barely able to lift his head, reached out with a trembling hand. "Hey boy." His voice cracked. "I'm here." Buddy let out a soft whimper, nuzzling weakly into Michael's touch. The room was silent except for the sound of Michael's shaky breaths and Buddy's slow, contented sighs. For a moment it was just the two of them. No sickness, no pain, just the unbreakable bond they had shared for over a decade. Michael stroked Buddy's fur, his fingers trembling. "You've been so brave," he whispered. "You can rest now, Buddy. It's okay." Buddy's breathing slowed, his body relaxed, but his eyes never left Michael's face. Then, with one final peaceful sigh, he closed his eyes. The heart monitor flatlined. Buddy was gone. Michael didn't sob, he didn't speak. He simply rested his forehead against Buddy's, his own breathing growing slower, weaker. The hospice nurse stepped forward, her face pale. "Michael?" But he didn't respond. His hand, still resting on Buddy's fur, went limp. His chest stilled. The second heart monitor let out a long, unwavering tone. Michael was gone too. The room was frozen in shock. No one moved, no one spoke. Then softly, Sarah whispered, "He waited for him." Dr. Reynolds exhaled slowly, his own eyes wet, and Michael waited for him. The paramedics didn't rush to revive Michael. There was no panic, no frantic efforts, because somehow in that quiet moment, everyone understood this wasn't a tragedy, it was a reunion. The news spread like wildfire. A man and his dog, both at the edge of death, refusing to leave this world without seeing each other one last time. A story of loyalty so fierce it defied logic. A bond so unbreakable that not even death could separate them for long. At Michael's memorial, hundreds gathered. Hospital staff, therapy patients, friends, and strangers whose story had moved them. A photo of Michael and Buddy sat at the center, surrounded by flowers and handwritten notes. One note, left by a child Buddy had comforted during chemotherapy, read, "Some heroes have pause." And beneath that, someone had added, "And some heroes hold on just long enough to say goodbye." Years later, people still visit the memorial. They leave dog treats. They share the story. They hug their pets a little tighter. Because Buddy and Michael's legacy wasn't just about how they died. It was about how they lived together, unwavering until the very end. And if you listen closely, some say you can still hear it. The echo of a golden retriever's joyful bark and the laughter of the man who loved him, forever intertwined in a love that even death couldn't erase. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for more unforgettable tales. Share this with someone who understands that true love never says goodbye forever. It just says, "I'll see you soon."